p.m. If everybody would stand and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will conduct a public hearing now regarding the confirmation of the Heritage Hill Economic Development Area. The proceedings are open for any comments from anyone.
No, you don't have to have a motion to open it. You can just open it and then close it. It'll just need to be reflected in the minutes of the public meeting. Public hearing was opened at 7:02. I'd say going once, going twice, 3 times lady. No.
Anybody want to make any comments? Going once, twice? Hearing none, we will close our public hearing. And the meeting of the Greensburg City of Greensburg Redevelopment Commission is called to order. To comply with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the city requests that participants in this meeting complete a voluntary anonymous survey that is available on the table in the back of the room. Judy, if you would conduct a roll call, please.
Ken Dorich, Jamie Humbert, Darrell Bowling.
Here.
Darren Burkhart.
Here.
David Weigel.
Present.
Mark Bauer.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is approval of our minutes from our previous meeting. Hope everybody's had a chance to review those. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are not any corrections to the minutes, they stand approved as presented. Next item on our agenda is old business. Mr. May, City Engineer, discussion of residential development project.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Well, we haven't heard a lot on the residential project. It is moving forward. I got word from Bill Evans, their engineer, in the last couple of days that they are soon going to start doing geotechnical investigation. That may have literally started today. I didn't happen to drive by there to see. They are also hopeful they can have the preliminary drainage plan completed after the holidays and should have the lift station design started then as well. And they are proposing to schedule another pre-filing meeting with city staff in January and also with their design team. So they're doing those things that only for an engineer would they be glamorous. Questions?
You know when they're going to meet with staff? Do you know when it's scheduled in January?
No, that was, I didn't quite read his email verbatim, but that was about it. I probably don't care until like after Christmas, because trying to schedule stuff now for early January can't get messy.
What did you say about the lift station? I'm sorry.
They expect to have the lift station design started
Okay.
by after the holidays also.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business. First item is Mr. Gary Smith from Reedy Financial Group. A couple of presentations for us.
Thank you.
Well, I've got 3 items to cover. One, since it's on topic, I suppose, would be the creation of the Heritage Hill allocation area. As you guys are aware, there's a 4-step process to go to a resolution with this board, Land Commission approval, City Council approval, 10-day public notice, public hearing, and then finally confirmatory resolution. We sent this, what's called a tax impact statement out to all the overlapping taxing units. So that is one of the attachments you'll see in front of you that looks like this. And effectively what this is doing is it's outlining the requirements of the impact statement. It has the assessed value assumption that we used for the basis of the impact study, went over facts and findings determined in the resolution, and then finally calculated an impact to the overlapping units. Essentially, if you move forward with this, what kind of impact we project there would be. And essentially you'll see on the, I don't know, 4th page of the document, there's really no impact to any of the units. The Greensburg Civil City is projected to have roughly a $4,000 impact on this creation. That's not even really truly an impact, it's just simply how much they would collect if this project came to town, and it wasn't in an allocation area, is effectively what we're saying. So really no impact at all to discuss. We have an Exhibit A parcel list and maps on the following page, and then finally we have the hearing that went out in the newspaper. I was perusing my email just now, and I did notice the attorney at Barnes sent out a revision to the resolution. Did you see that by chance? Yeah, he said that they removed some parcels from the list, and I just saw this, so I wasn't exactly sure what changed. The information that he sent over was not a red line, so I don't have any way of knowing exactly what was changed without having time to look through it.
What changed was the railroad property
Okay.
along Railroad Street. When you look at it, it appears to be like 4 individual parcels, but in fact it's one big parcel that extends all the way across, and it got outside of the area.
Okay.
So the change was to take that property out.
Gotcha. Okay.
And what I handed you, Chris, is the revised resolution.
Perfect.
The area didn't change, it just removed. The actual listing had one outside of that.
There was one parcel that, to look at it on Beacon, appears to be 4 parcels. But in fact, it's one parcel, just has gaps at the cross streets. And so that took it outside of the boundary of the area.
So rather than increasing the boundary, we
Took the railroad
notch
property
out.
out.
Okay.
And as was pointed out, the probability of any significant increased assessed valuation for the railroad property is probably minimal.
Is that at the southwest corner?
I'm gonna get in trouble, but I believe it starts at Montfort to Broadway to Franklin, and Franklin to East, I think are the 4 pieces that make up the railroad parcel.
So is there a hole then?
The way the county has represented it on their GIS, there's gaps at every cross street. Broadway, Franklin, Montfort, or whatever they are, East Street.
Any other questions regarding the impact statement? Entertain a motion for the adoption of the confirmatory resolution as presented.
Yeah, looking over this resolution, I have no problem recommending it to the board, and I would join in entertaining a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Darrell. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Darren. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
The second document is actually your financial update. So it looks like this Per our agreement with the Redevelopment Commission, we will be providing biannual updates to your TIF plan. So you guys haven't seen this in a while. We wanted to share this with you while we were here tonight. Going to page 3, you'll see RDC overview, all of the commissioners and their terms. Down at the bottom, you'll actually see all the TIF allocation areas. This is where we're keeping track of each individual allocation area that's under this board's purview, as well as when those areas went into effect and when we anticipate those areas to expire. So you'll see the State Road 3 corridor in the green down at the bottom, the two different areas there, the original area, the expansion area, the 2030 and the 2037 expiration. And then down below that, you'll see the residential housing allocation area that was set up in 2020. Page 4, this represents every claim that this board has approved dating back to January 1st. So it's a comprehensive list of everything that's been approved. These claims obviously feed into the subsequent pages. Page 5 is a month-by-month cash balance report. This does tie to the October 31st ledger of the city. So anything prior to October 2022 is actual data. Ending cash balance at the end of October was $2,214,285. And you can see going down to December, we have another settlement coming in around $500,000, projected in the year in around 2.6 million. This is really important for communities that may go negative in their cash balance in between settlements. You guys obviously have no issues there. And then we have a month-by-month breakdown for projections in 2023. So this is a more high-level overview of page 6, which we'll talk about next. Page 6 is a 30,000-foot look at the financial picture of the State Road 3 corridor allocation area. We've got historical data, 2020 and 2021. We have your projections for 2022 as well as year to date. And then we're also looking forward to 2023 and 2024. One thing I will note is the certifications for TIF revenue, your TIF allocation area revenue assessment. We've got in there at 1.216 million as a projected revenue for next year. That's a little bit of an uptick from this year. I know that's a little bit misleading because in 2022 we show 1.7. There was actually a delayed settlement the prior year, so that's why that looks a little bit off. You'll see 2021 has 570, then it jumps to 1.7, then it goes down to 1.2. We are growing, it just isn't illustrated here on the revenue numbers. Going down to the detailed capital outlays, you'll see all the capital outlays, all the debt payments, and then all the other services and charges that are coming out that you guys are approving every single month. As of 10/31/2022, the total spending has been $879,469, and again, that $2.2 million cash balance went over before, ties to that number there. The one thing I would add on this sheet is you'll notice we don't have a lot of projections in 2023 and 2024. So that is probably something that we'll want to sit down with folks here in the city in the next month or so, maybe early 2023. Start talking about some things we may be interested in pursuing going forward. Maybe even talk about some policies and how you guys appropriate dollars and what kind of projects you're interested in funding. So just an abundance of opportunities with this sort of cash balance, just opportunities everywhere. Page 7 is your residential housing area. No assessed value there, so nothing to cover. Page 8, these are your contracts. There's only one outstanding still for VP Construction, Veterans Parkway. It's $2,300. It's a very, very small number, but that's one of the contract amounts we still have outstanding. And then finally, page 9, this is simply a snapshot of all your debt service funds. And for those of you that don't know, you guys have another reporting requirement coming up in April. We structure this report to essentially be your April reporting requirement. So whenever we go over this report again in April, don't be surprised if it's the same information we present then. Is there any questions regarding the financial update or anything you guys want me to add value to, or add any more value to? That was a dangerous statement.
Yeah, I know. That's why I almost didn't say it.
Well, I mean, the reason is there's a pass-through calculation, so every June you essentially need to justify why you're capturing the dollars. And you guys, you have plenty of debt service payments to fulfill that, but obviously with money coming in, we want to have it earmarked towards something. A lot of communities will have like a long-term capital list. Like Seymour, for instance, they had a 10-year list of things they wanted to accomplish, and they had estimates and all that kind of stuff, and put that in the plan, try to figure out how we fund it, prioritize it based on what we have availability for. It's usually, what we see is common practice. Any other comments before I jump into the most exciting part of the evening, the TIF impact update? Go ahead. This is your final reporting requirement of the year, and I'm on this document here. This is your final reporting requirement. On page 1, you'll see all the reporting requirements we're subject to. April 1st, that's been completed. April 15th, June 15th, August 1st. Finally, prior to the end of the year, we're required to report on the impact that the Redevelopment Commission and the assessed value you're capturing has on all the overlapping units. As part of this, we're to talk about financial data, budget, long-term plans, and discussion on TIF impact. We've talked about a lot of that already, but we'll go through this here quickly. So the next page inside the RDC, you'll look at 2023 incremental assessed value. So for that allocation area, State Road Corridor allocation area, $53,915,332 of assessed value is what's been captured. The next page is how TIF works. I usually like to take this opportunity in the year to just get back to basics for those of you that don't know necessarily how TIF works. Essentially, this chart down here at the bottom of the page is illustrating how TIF works over time. So essentially what's happening is in 2020, assessed values of the parcels within the allocation area were frozen in time. And that represents that base assessed value chart there and then down there at the very bottom. So let's say, for instance, all of those values, all the base assessment were $10 million at that time. That $10 million of assessed value continues to go to all the overlapping units, the school, the county, the schools, the city, etc. None of that changes. The only way the RDC in those allocation areas collect dollars is if we can justify doing so. So things like new construction, new abatement roll-off, appeals, or consequently destruction. So again, in that example, we have a $10 million base assessed value. Let's just say, it's housing, it's, commercial property, it's farmland, et cetera, et cetera. We incentivize new development to come into town through some sort of TIF incentive program. That new construction is actually what we're capturing, and that represents that little teal triangle over time. So every single year, anything that's new construction, anything that's abatement roll-off on those properties, we capture that value only, and then anything else doesn't fall into those buckets continues to grow the tax base. So one of the big common misconceptions is, we're coming in, we're setting up an allocation there on this parcel, and they're going to capture all the growth from that parcel forever. That's not the case. As we've seen this past few years, property values are just rising, 10, 15, 20% in some parts of the state. We don't capture trending value in allocation areas. The base units continue to capture that trending value. So this graph's a little misleading because that base AV number can go over time, and it's being represented as being fixed here. Now, we don't capture that assessed value forever. Depending on when the allocation area was established, there is a clock that starts. It's generally 25 years. It's 25 years from the day you issue debt on it. Now, it used to be 25 years without the debt language. Before that, there was no expiration at all. We started our TIF in the year 2000, and we have a 2030 expiration date, I believe, based on the information that we have in here. So when that area expires, all of the assessed value then goes through all the overlapping units. So in your case, you're capturing $53 million of assessed value, and on that $53 million of assessed value, you're capturing in dollars about $1.2 million. The big misconception is you guys are capturing $1.2 million in those funds. If the TIF didn't exist, that $1.2 million would be captured by everyone else, the school, the city, the town or township, etc. And what I can say is there'll be a lot of units of government very disappointed when allocation areas expire, because that's not how property taxes work in Indiana. What will happen is the tax rate will deteriorate marginally, and no one will actually collect any more dollars. So for that reason, there's new value generated by capturing the assessed value within a TIF allocation area, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. So covering financial position, again, we touched on this just a little bit earlier. This is part of the requirement. We have the beginning of cash balance, revenues, expenses, year-ending fund balance, 1.7 million, a little bit more than that beginning fund balance, just over $1.8 million this year in revenues, $1 million in change on expenses, and we're ending the year with just over 2.5 million. So again, high level there. Ongoing projects, we've identified Pirates Park, Veterans Parkway, debt payments that are ongoing, Greensburg Inclusion Park, and Heritage Hill TIF creation. Those are the projects that we've identified that we're actively pursuing right now. The next page is TIF impact question. We touched on that a little bit before. This impact is kind of asking us to do something that doesn't make a lot of sense. They're saying, the state's saying, calculate an impact that's hypothetical, and then send mailers to all the overlapping taxing units saying that they're impacted by you doing your business with full of hypothetical scenarios. So it's just not a really fair way of looking at it if that's what we have to do. Effectively, there's not much of an impact, and I'll show you that here in a second. The TIF impact chart, this is really where this all starts to make sense. I mentioned before, you guys collected around $1.1 million in total, and there'd be a lot of units upset if the TIF went away because they would think they were going to collect the 1.1 million. That's simply not the case. On a conservative basis, we project if this board went away tomorrow and the allocation areas were to completely absolve, that the other units of government would collect less than $300,000 in total. 285,772 is what we've calculated. Compare that to the amount of dollars you're collecting, which is 1.1 million and change. We call that new additional revenue you're generating. That those dollars are more efficient in the allocation area than they would be outside the allocation area in terms of generating dollars. And we've coined that phrase TIF margin. It's new dollars you're creating for the community by having these assessed values within an allocation area. As far as what that looks like for unit by unit, Greensburg Civil City, they're absorbing 55% of that impact. The 285,000, they're absorbing 55% of that, or 157,000. That represents only 1.29% of the budget. Again, this number doesn't mean anything. This is a number that we made up based on hypothetical scenarios. That does not mean that between 2022 and 2023, the city lost that money because of this board. It's just a hypothetical situation that we're calculating. That's why it's a little misleading. Greensburg Community School Corporation, $90,000, 31% of the impact. That represents right at 1/3 of 1% of their overall budget, so very, very insignificant. Decatur County, $23,780, far less than 1% of their budget. Greensburg Public Library, $12,980, far less than 1% of their budget. Decatur County Solid Waste, so small you can't even really quantify it. Same with Washington Township. So that's the TIF impact presentation in a nutshell. The next page, the TIF impact explained, that just highlights some of the things I've already touched on. Any questions on TIF impact? Hearing none. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. May, do you want to?
I believe you've already dealt with that.
We've already dealt with that, okay, with the resolution, okay. Then the next item on our agenda is approval of claims to pay our bills. We have about 7 or 8 bills totaling $2,726.93. We have a bill from Reedy Financial for $2,083.63. 2 bills from Stephen Legal Group of $300 and then $75. An invoice from Assured Partners, $262.50. And then we have 5 separate items from Greensburg Municipal Water and Wastewater of $1.16 each. All those together add up to $2,726.93. Is there a motion to pay our bills?
So moved.
Thank you, Darren.
Second.
Thank you, Daryl. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 3-0. That looks like that takes us to the end of our agenda for the evening. Our next meeting will be in 5 weeks on Thursday, January 5th, 2023 at 7 o'clock, right here. Thank you all for coming. Our meeting is adjourned.